Good morning, Facebook, and welcome to our Tim at 10. Today is Thursday, January 21st, 2021. Welcome, everybody, and I'm happy that you're with me today. Today we are going to talk about secrets of being a early education professional. And I got to tell y'all, it was kind of funny whenever I was getting ready for today's workshop. I originally wrote this training in 2009, so it's about 12 years old, and so I was updating, some of the material, and then also kind of reflecting on a lot of the material that is in this, and how I've grown professionally over the last 12 years. So it kind of got a little emotional. I'm not going to lie to you, looking back at this material and seeing how far we have all come over the last 12 years. So really interesting right there. And like I said, I've added a bunch of new stuff to this and updated it for the current world that we're living in. Welcome everybody. Glad that you are here. For those of you that this is your first time joining us at Tim at 10 on Facebook Live, the way this works is that I will do my presentation. You have the opportunity to interact with me right there on the chat screen. I see a lot of you saying hello and good morning. So that makes it instructor-led with child care licensing because you have the opportunity to interact with me, and I can provide additional information or answer any questions that you have. Now, if you're watching the recorded video, then you've got to call me or email me to interact with me. But those of you that are with me live this morning, it does count as an instructor-led training. At the end of today's workshop, I will post a link so that you can complete an online worksheet if you're needing that certificate of completion. There is a $5 fee to get your certificate of completion, and again, those links will be posted at the end of the workshop today. If you're not needing a certificate of completion, you just get to watch and enjoy and interact, and it doesn't cost you anything. I wanted to take a really quick moment this morning before I got started on our webinar to give a shout out to our 2021 sponsors. Those of you that have been in person with me, either with our weekend mini conference or our director credential course, y'all know that we have a wonderful group of sponsors that help us keep this training organization going forward and trying to keep our costs down to a bare minimum for y'all. So we love our sponsors, especially in 2020. They have stuck with us and they have been champs, continuing to keep their businesses afloat as well as supporting our businesses. So shout out to all of our sponsors. Go to my website, timthetrainer.com, and at the bottom of the home page, you can see some quick links for our sponsors. But there's also a tab, if you look over on the left-hand side of my webpage, you can click on sponsors, and there is a full-page ad for each sponsor. You can click on that ad, and it'll take you straight to their website. We're very happy to have a new sponsor this year, and this is one that we've been talking to for a long time, and ProCare is very happy to join our Tim the Trainer sponsor family this year. I've had a very, very long relationship with ProCare. They have done some amazing enhancements over the last year to help programs with touchless sign in and out for the children and staff to maintain a healthy and safe environment. So if you haven't seen any of that, go check it out. But they've made some incredible enhancements, over the last year and a half. So we are very happy to have ProCare as part of our sponsor family. So make sure you check those out. All right, let's talk about, what it takes to be a professional in this industry. Now, today is all about you. All right, so we're going to do a lot of self-reflecting today. We're really going to look at your leadership style and how you can step out of your comfort zone and be a better leader, be a stronger leader. But most important, find that balance. And leadership is all about finding the balance. And when we have a year like we've had, over the last 12 months, it's very, very easy to lose that balance. And we get into survival mode where we're just trying to keep the Titanic afloat. And right now, we're in a really good opportunity, even though we're still dealing with this pandemic at epic proportions. We've got this opportunity right now where we can reevaluate our own professional growth and our own professional strength, and see where we've got the opportunity to learn. All right. So, the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to being a professional is being able to have that self-care. All right. And being able to balance what you have on your plate. And I know a lot of you are a lot like me because we all have the same personality. And we tend to put too much on our plate. Those of us that work in the early education industry, especially in a leadership role, we have a hard time saying no, don't we? We have a very difficult time saying no. And being a professional, you got to understand that it's okay to say no sometimes. You have to be able to look at your plate, see how much is on it, and can you take on more? Or do I need to delegate this task? Do I need to put this task off? Or do I just need to simply say no? All right. And I know that for me, when I was talking about, looking at this over the last 12 years and how much I've grown, this is a big one for me because I've always been a yes person. And I've really had to practice saying no to people whenever they ask me to do things or to go above and beyond. And it's kind of rewarding a little bit. All right. And I know that when I first started practicing this, I felt a little bit of guilt. Oh man, I disappointed that person. I had to say, no, I can't do this. And there was a little bit of guilt. I got over that really quick, okay? But I really want you to think about, your professional growth and times that you should have said no to something that someone wanted you to do, or an extra task that someone wanted you to take on, an extra initiative that you wanted to take on, those type of things. Really reflect on when could you have said no. All right. Now, keep in mind, sometimes the most valuable opportunities for growth are those things that we don't plan. All right. So those spontaneous moments or those surprises that you get when people, pull you into a situation and you end up growing tremendously. So we still got to look out for those type of opportunities right there. All right. But being a professional means that you are able to evaluate how much do I have on my plate, how much more can I take, and what do I need to get off my plate. And when we talk about being able to say no, it's not just about being able to say no, but it's also looking at what you do have on your current plate, and are there some items that it's time for them to go? All right? Are you doing some things that either someone else can do for you, or are you doing things that really no longer have value and it's time for them to be retired or to go away? All right? So I really want y'all to really do some reflecting on that part of it right there too. What are you doing that someone else can do so you can delegate it? Or is there something that you're continuing to do that no longer has value? I know, again, for me, especially over the last 12 months trying to manage, these businesses through the pandemic, I definitely realized that there were quite a few tasks that I was doing that there was no reason for me to be doing them. Either I needed to delegate them to someone else, or they've lived out their purpose, and there was no longer a need to continue doing it. It felt good. It felt really good to get those items off my plate. All right. Really good decisions right there. The next secret to being a professional is, recognizing the need to be proactive. All right. Too much to do and too little time to do it. That's what we think sometimes. I've got so much to do and such little time to do it. But you've got to be able to carve out some time to be proactive. The time to learn to swim is not when you're drowning. All right? When someone tosses you in the water, that's not the time to learn how to swim. And I'm sure a lot of you can agree with me that there have been times that we knew we needed to learn a new task or practice a skill, but we procrastinated and procrastinated. And then when the time came that we really needed that skill, it wasn't sharp. All right. And we weren't ready and we struggled. All right. So again, I'm going to use the pandemic as, an example right here. How many of you have had, infectious disease control in your emergency preparedness plan? We've been writing that into our emergency preparedness plan for 15 years now. How to deal with an infectious disease. But how many of you actually practiced it until this year? And then once we were faced with the pandemic, we were struggling. We were struggling big time. And, the reality is that we had these policies and processes probably in your binder the entire time, But we kind of got that it's not going to happen to me, it's not going to happen mentality. And we didn't practice the skill. And then, we were sinking. We were sinking whenever we needed it. So, being a professional is being proactive. You have to be able to anticipate. You have to be able to forecast events. All right. Role play with your team. All right. Role play with other directors, other leaders. Role play with your teachers. Do this as often as possible. And think about possible scenarios that could come up, all right? So that way, when you need the skill, you're ready, all right? And don't stop practicing. Don't stop practicing, all right? And if you need to learn that new skill, On Tuesday of this week, I did a webinar on Parent Code of Conduct. Several of you were there with me on Tuesday. If you missed that, you can watch it on my website or watch it on Facebook. It's still out there. But dealing with conflict within your program, that is definitely a skill that we have to continue to practice. And you've got to be proactive. That's why I did that workshop on Tuesday on Parent Code of Conduct. Not so, you can look back on these situations that you've already had, but you can prepare for possible situations in the future. All right? Remember, procrastination is an enemy to leadership. Okay? Procrastination is an enemy to leadership. So you got to be proactive right there. The next secret to being a professional that I wanted to share with you is all about balance. I think this one is so incredibly important, all right? But balancing your personal life and your professional life. One of my favorite quotes that I've shared with y'all many, many times in different trainings is a quote actually from Abraham Lincoln. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. All right? And what a wonderful industry that we work in, that we get the opportunity to play every single day. Many of you have attended my training on generational leadership. I'm actually going to do that in a webinar in the very near future. I have that on my schedule. But, I do a whole training on generational leadership, and we look at each generation and the characteristics of those individuals. And you have to lead people differently based on what generation they fall into. Well, one thing we know about the Gen Xers, and a lot of us that are probably on this webinar today are Gen Xers. We're a very small group, but we're out there. One big characteristic of the Generation X group is that we strive for work-life balance, all right? That ability to balance our personal life and our professional life, all right? And the Gen Xers, we're addicted to work. We like working. Working becomes more of a hobby than it is something that you have to do, all right? The older the Gen X group is getting, the more they are learning the importance of boundaries. And that's the one thing I really wanted to talk to you about on this secret right here, is balancing your personal and professional lives. Y'all have to establish boundaries, all right? And that's hard for us in the early education industry, isn't it? Because you want to give those parents and your employees your personal cell phone. If they need anything, they can call you or text you, all right? Y'all don't do that. Okay, give them the business line. If they need something, they can call you during business hours, all right? But at night and on the weekend, that's your personal time. That's your family time. And, people don't respect boundaries. And if you give out that personal cell phone or whatnot, you're going to have parents calling you at 11 o'clock at night on Sunday, all right? Even though you have a policy that says employees must call in and actually speak to a member of management, how many of you, they still text? Even though that's in the policy manual, they still send you a text message, People don't know boundaries, And again, this is definitely one that I have worked on over the last, 15 years. I still have work to do on boundaries. But y'all, those of you that have called my office, you've definitely seen that I now have it set up to where my phone only rings Monday through Friday from, 8 to 5. And after that, it goes to a voicemail that says, call back during business hours. I had to establish those boundaries because my phone rang off the hook at, the middle of the night and, weekends and holidays, and so we had to establish some boundaries and I'm working on more of that right there. But, you guys have got to establish those boundaries. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. And we don't want you to burn out. Being a professional means that you've got that grit and determination, all right? And you're in it for the long haul. You're in it for the long haul. I've said this again in so many of my different trainings, but people don't get burned out because of the job they do. People get burned out because they forget why they do it. When you don't set boundaries and you get consumed, all right? And when you get consumed and overloaded, you start missing the big picture, all right? We don't want you to miss the big picture. So, I don't know how many of y'all have practiced this right here before, but there's a book called One Word, and it's written by John Gordon and a couple of other guys. Go check it out. There's actually a children's version of the book now, so it's really, really cool. But the one word, and it's basically you pick one word and you focus on that one word for the entire year, and you share your one word with each other and you support everybody with their one word. My one word for this year, 2021, is patience. That we've all definitely learned during the pandemic that patience is very important. The power of acceptance and just that ability to hit the pause button and just wait, because things are probably going to change in 5 or 10 minutes. All right. So there you go. Scarlett is saying that she's doing that with her staff. Loves John Gordon. We've done it many times, but this year I did buy all of my staff a copy of the children's book, One Word, and then we did the whole thing with the sign and everything. It's been good. All right, but I brought up the one word situation with y'all because for some of you, your one word might need to be boundaries. All right. So I'm just throwing a suggestion out there for you. All right. But that's important when it comes to being a professional, that you've got to establish those boundaries. All right. What is this mess that we call stress? And why do we allow stress into our lives? All right. Stress is when your gut says no way and your mouth says, sure, I'll be happy to do it. All right. And how many of you, again, have gotten yourself into a situation that you knew you shouldn't have gotten yourself into, and now you're stressed out over it? All right. So, we need to be better at being able to limit the amount of stress that we allow into our lives. It's not about managing stress. It's about allowing it in. All right. And you've got to put that roadblock up and say, I'm not going to allow this in. And things that stress me out are not going to be part of my life. And start getting rid of that. All right. So when we talk about how do you handle stress better, all right, don't allow it. It's real simple. All right. Don't allow it. So there you go. Now, how do you handle stress better? All right. You need to start taking care of you. And I tell you, when we talk about secrets to being a professional, I want y'all to look at that all of these role models that we have out there that we idolize as professionals, in not only our industry, but Oprah and all of these different icons that we have on this pedestal when it comes to being a professional. What is one thing that all of these people have in common? They put a big focus on taking care of themselves. All right? And you can't take care of other people unless you take care of yourself first. That's really important. Okay? So that's going to lead me to my next secret to being a professional. Lighten up and live longer. All right? Laughter is a form of internal jogging. Okay? I want to challenge y'all to laugh more. Okay? To laugh more. So, and here's a bigger challenge for you, okay? I want you to learn how to laugh as often as possible without a chemical influence, all right? So it's not going out having a few glasses of wine with your friends and then laughing over a couple of glasses of wine, or whatever substance that you're using to lighten things up. We've got to learn how to do this naturally, all right, without the substitutions out there. So, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the chemicals that are released from the brain, but I kind of thought this would be a good idea. I've been doing a lot of stuff on the brain here lately. Let's talk about some of the chemicals that are released from our brain and what are some natural ways of getting these chemicals. So dopamine, dopamine is the reward chemical. Whenever you complete a task and you complete a task successfully, dopamine is released from your brain and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel fulfilled, all right, accomplished. Dopamine makes you feel satisfied, all right. Now, I did a webinar, it's been a few months ago now, on, practicing optimism in the classroom. And we talked about ways that we can get children to release that dopamine. And that's important right there. But, completing that task successfully. Self-care. When you take care of yourself, your brain releases dopamine. Eating, of course, eating can release dopamine, but we've got to be able to set boundaries on that one right there. Celebrate little wins, all right? So when you're operating your program, celebrate as often as possible. We went all week this week with no biting. Celebrate! All right? And when you celebrate, you release that dopamine, all right? Now, I just saw an advertisement on the Facebook for some gummies that you can buy that will help your brain release dopamine. All right, that's pretty cool, but we want it naturally. All right, that's what we're looking for. Serotonin is another chemical that is released from the brain, and that's your mood stabilizer. That's your mood stabilizer. So, of course, a lot of ways that you can get that natural serotonin is meditating, running, sun exposure. All right, get out there in the sun. Walking through nature, swimming, cycling. These are all ways to stabilize your mood and lighten up and live longer right there. Oxytocin is the love hormone. All right, that's that loving. That's the empathy. The empathy is that within we really push that with our young children. Playing with a dog, playing with an animal, all right, makes you happy. It gives you that oxytocin. Playing with a baby, of course, that innocence right there. Holding someone's hand, hugging a family member, and I know that's hard right now because of the pandemic. Giving someone a compliment, not receiving, but giving someone a compliment. Your brain releases oxytocin. Okay, so be an encourager, compliment people. All right, remember what you offer to others, you strengthen within yourself. All right, and then the last chemical I wanted to bring up to you is endorphins. All right, and endorphins are painkillers, but they're good painkillers. All right, where your body does release that stress, it does relax right there. But of course, laughter. Okay, laughter is the best way to release those endorphins. Essential oils is another good one, but I want y'all to get these chemicals out of your brain in a natural way right there. Watching a comedy, laughing, something that makes you laugh. All right. Dark chocolate. Actually, there's scientific proof that eating dark chocolate will help endorphins be released from the brain. But most importantly, again, too, laughter is the most important. Second thing is exercising. All right. So there you go. Lighten up and live longer. All right. The next secret to being a professional that I wanted to share with you is communication. Okay, and this is a big one right here. Communicating is more than just talking. Communicating is also listening. All right. And when we are communicating with someone, say what you mean and mean what you say. All right. So, don't dance around it. Just get it out there. All right. We've been talking a lot lately about policies and processes. And when we talk about policies and processes, it's very, very important that you say what you mean and you mean what you say. All right. Remember, okay, we were talking about John Gordon earlier. This is a John Gordon thing right here. In the absence of communication, negativity will fill the void. All right? And I really want y'all to reflect on this. That so much of the conflict that we deal with in our business boils down to a lack of communication. All right? Where if we would have just properly communicated with that parent, or if we would have just properly communicated with that employee, whatever conflict came out of it probably could have been avoided. And if not avoided, it could have definitely been handled better. All right? Now, remember, busyness and stress is another enemy, two other enemies to leadership. We get busy, and therefore we don't communicate. And then negativity fills the void. All right? So, I really want y'all to reflect on moments where you could have communicated better and more effectively. And again, I want y'all to really reflect on not just situations that you had to deal with in the past where you could have communicated better, but I really want y'all to reflect on if I would have just listened to the person better. Okay, if I would have just opened my mind, opened my heart, and listened to that parent, all right, put myself in their shoes, saw their version of reality, I could have handled this situation better. Or if I would have just taken the time to slow down and listen to that employee, all right, instead of rolling my eyes and running 1,000 miles an hour, all right, you probably could have avoided whatever big situation that you had to deal with, all right. Y'all, I'm not gonna lie to you, this is a hard one for me. Okay, for me personally, because I do have a big plate and I got a lot on my plate. So being able to hit the pause button and listen to people is hard for me, and I have to coach myself. My inner speech is coaching, like, slow down, listen, concentrate, because it's hard for me. All right, I know that. So that's why I'm working on it. All right, being conscious of what you need to work on is the first step. All right, so being able to recognize these are things I need to work on to be a better professional. So there you go. Build a better team. All right, few burdens are heavy when everyone lifts. And you know, I over the past year have learned to value my tribe more than ever before. Now, I've always been a big team person. You know, we practice the school family concept, you know, designed by Dr. Becky Bailey in Conscious Discipline. But the team has gotten me through this past year. And I don't know how in the world any of us could have made it through 2020 without our people, all right, without our tribe, without our team, okay? Now, share your passion with as many people as possible, all right? You know, I talk about this, I have a whole training that I do on building relationships, and I have a whole part of that training where we talk about sharing your passion. Don't just assume people know that you're passionate about early education or after school programs. Don't make that assumption. You have to actually tell them how much you love what you do and why you do what you do, all right? And you need to tell them daily how much you love being an early educator and how passionate you are. You're passionate because you're still here, all right? Be proud of that. Be proud of that. But share your passion and your determination with as many people as possible. Something that one of my mentors taught me really early on in my career, and this sticks with me to this day, is always surround yourself with people better than you. And, you know, anytime I hire a new employee, anytime I get myself involved in a new group, you know, I think about this. I'm going to surround myself with people that are better than me. And the reason why you do this is that the people that you surround yourself with is a reflection of you. All right? So whether it's your professional group or your personal tribe, all right, the people that you surround yourself with is a reflection of you. So if you hang out with a lot of trash, you're going to be perceived as trash. All right? If you do nothing but hire people that are not motivated, not dedicated, not passionate, that this is just a job for them, then guess what? That's how you're going to be perceived too. But when you hire people that are motivated and that have a lot of energy and that are passionate about early education and after-school programs, and this is not a job, this is a career, all right? This is not a job, this is a purpose. This is a purpose. And that's when you build your team based on those components, that's how you're going to be perceived, all right? But, you know, your tribe, your team is your family. And we hold each other together. We hold each other together. And like I said, don't know how we could have made it through 2020 without that. and we've definitely learned to come together as a community, this past year more than ever, and how important that is. I just had a conference Zoom with a group that I belong to earlier this week, and we spent about 2.5 hours talking about this particular subject and how important it is and how powerful it is. So it's cool stuff. I added in here something that I felt was very important when it comes to being a professional in our industry: teaming up with parents. All right, teaming up with your parents. Kids don't come with a set of instructions. And one big transition we've seen over the last 5 to 10 years in our industry is that parents want us to give them guidance. They want us to be the role model. Parents are now viewing us as the professionals that we are, and they're seeking our advice. All right. So, a big part of business these days is having that caring trademark, and showing the community that you care, not just about your business, but about the entire community, and that you're interested in everyone's growth. All right. So teaming up with parents is a big part of your success. Now, this past year, this has been hard, hasn't it? All right, because we have such limited access to our customers. We're, dropping off and picking up at the front door, so our teachers are not getting that connection. We've really had to think outside of the box when it comes to how to team up with your parents, whether it's using social media to make those connections, doing parent workshops on social media, all kinds of different avenues right there to be able to make those connections and share your expertise with that parent. What we want our parents to understand is that this is a partnership, and we are working together to, educate and care for this child. This is a partnership. And that's a word that I really want y'all to start using when you're working with the families in your school, is that this is a partnership. Okay, we can't do it alone. All right, both directions right there. Some of you might have seen that I was interviewed by a TV station here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area last week, and so that was one thing that I was so happy that made it on the air, because I talked about dealing with the pandemic and maintaining a healthy program, is that parents have to understand that this is a partnership, and the decisions that they make at home affect the entire program. So if parents are not making healthy decisions at home and then they're sending their child to our program, that's placing every child, every family, every employee at risk. So we've got to establish that partnership with the parents so that they understand how important their decisions are. So, out of the 15-minute interview that I had with this reporter, and then like 30 seconds ended up on TV, I was so happy that that part was actually on TV. So that was pretty cool. All right. Little bitty spats and huge disputes. All right. Disagreements do not have to turn into conflict. Let's really just let that one sink in for a minute. Disagreements do not have to turn into conflict. It's okay for people to disagree. It's okay for people to have a different point of view. It's okay for people to have different beliefs. It doesn't make anyone better than anyone else. All right? You get to decide when you have a disagreement in your program. You get to decide, am I going to turn this into conflict, or am I going to turn this into an opportunity? All right? Little spats, huge disputes, conflicts, and obstacles. These are all opportunities for you to lead. All right? Turn them into opportunities. rather than conflicts. Oh, I see someone says, Tim for president. Pass. I'll pass on that one. Thank you for the recommendation, but no, I'm just kidding. There's way too many skeletons in this closet over here, trust me. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think about, that not president, but nope, I'm happy with what I'm doing. But there you go. Create those opportunities for you to lead. And, it's just like when I'm working with classroom teachers and I'm coaching classroom teachers. A lot of y'all participated in my positive guidance and discipline workshop we did a couple of months ago. But children talking back to you or children arguing with the adult. Well, let's really break that down. Don't we encourage children to have conversations with adults? We actually encourage conversations. Don't we encourage children to question? Yeah, I just did a wonderful workshop on understanding cognitive development, understanding executive skills. If y'all missed that one, please go back and watch it. It was really, really good. But we actually teach children to question and to have conversations. So when we sit there and say one of our biggest frustrations are children that talk back or children that argue with an adult, well, what is the difference between a conversation and an argument? Okay, I want y'all to think about that. Same thing with a director talking to a parent or a director talking to the teacher. What's the difference between a conversation and an argument? All right? Body language and tone of voice. Body language and tone of voice is what turns it into conflict. All right? So you need to be very aware of your composure when dealing with disagreements and little spats. All right? Your body language and your tone is what could turn it into a conflict. All right? And I know that sometimes it is the employee or the parent, the customer, that loses their body language and their tone of voice gets louder or aggressive. That doesn't give you permission to do the same. Okay? The calmer you stay, the better you maintain your composure, you're role modeling. Okay? You're role modeling right there, that composure. And that's important right there. But look at the opportunities that you're creating. All right? Remember, the more angry we are, the worse our judgment is. When we get triggered, all right, when we get triggered and we downshift into our survival state, we lose judgment and we make poor decisions, all right? Being a professional is being able to recognize, I don't need to be making any decisions right now, okay? Being a professional is being able to recognize, I'm triggered right now. All right, I need to step away from this situation and I need to not talk. All right, being a professional is knowing when to keep your mouth shut. All right, so, and sometimes we need to say, hey, we need to put a pause on this conversation. Let's get back together at noon and we can continue this conversation. But right now, we need to put a pause on it. All right? And both parties probably need to go calm down. All right? But that, being a professional, is recognizing it's time to hit the pause button. All right? April, yes, we are making a difference. All of us were making a huge difference, and I'm so proud of all of you. We have grown so much this past year as an industry. It's mind-blowing how much we have grown over this past year. I'm so proud of all of us. All right, delegation, all right? Delegating is more than just dumping, all right? If you perform a task that someone else could do, you keep yourself from a task that only you can do. So, and when we don't delegate, we're not growing our people. Something else that one of my mentors told me early on in my career that has really stuck with me is that, you need to always prepare someone to take your job. You should always be training someone to take your job, all right? And it's, and you need to be confident about that. All right. A lot of times when I talk to people about this, they're like, oh, but then they might take my job. Well, that's something you got to work on. All right. You shouldn't be afraid of someone taking your job. If you're doing it and you're doing it well, no one's going to take it. All right. But you should always have someone ready. Again, I keep going back to the pandemic. We've definitely seen this. Some very good friends of ours, had a scary situation with the pandemic, and they own multiple businesses, and it was a reality check that there were certain things that each person does that no one else knows how to do it. And then when they got sick and were in the hospital, there was nobody to do these items. Not only was there nobody to do these tasks, no one knew how to do them. So that was a scary reality check that we need to make sure that other people are trained to do our job. Absolutely, for sure. That was definitely a big eye-opener for me, because I know that with my businesses, there are a lot of things that I do that no one else knows how to do them, and I got to fix that. I've got to fix that, and I need to be better at delegating, or at least having a backup plan. So keep that in mind. That school has to continue to operate whether you're there or not. All right. We got to have the tools and the people in place to keep it going, especially right now. You never know what tomorrow is going to look like. All right. So practice delegating. Delegating is your friend. All right. Being a professional also means taking risk. All right. Now, it's so funny whenever I talk about taking a risk. And I have so many directors and owners that will tell me, oh, I'm not a risk taker. I'm not a risk taker. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You own and operate a licensed early education program. Every morning when you open your door, you're taking a risk. You're jumping out of that airplane, maybe with or without a parachute, every day that you open your doors. You are like one of the biggest risk takers. All right, so we do take risk every single day. All right, but everything a person wants in life involves taking a risk, and looking for the right opportunity and the right time to take a risk is very important. All right, I'll see if I can find it, and I'm sure you can probably Google it, internet search. But there was recently an article in the New York Times that talked about businesses that were going to thrive, after the pandemic. And it talked about the businesses that are going to thrive after the pandemic are the businesses that are taking risk right now. That they're looking for opportunities to grow, not just tomorrow, but 5-10 years down the road. And they're being bold and they're being brave and taking on that risk. And unfortunately, there's been 35% of the licensed childcare facilities in the United States of America that have already closed down due to the pandemic. Like, done. They're gone forever. There's a great opportunity for some of you to expand and to grow, because once this is over, those kids have got to go somewhere. They got to come back to something. And if 35% of the programs are closed down, where are these kids and families going to go? So for some of you, here's a great opportunity to take some risk and be bold and brave. All right. But if that's something that you're interested in right there. But being a leader is taking a risk every single day right there. All right. So where do we go from here? I really want y'all to reflect on your values, your beliefs, affirm that purpose that you have, that meaning that you have. Repeating something that I said earlier today, people don't get burned out because of the job they do. People get burned out when they forget why they do it. So remind yourself daily that, why you do what you do. and tell people about it. Okay, don't forget to tell people about it. But there you go, and that's going to help you be an early education professional. Great. Tasha, I don't know the answer to that. I've been doing some other stuff this morning, but I will look as soon as we are off this webinar, because if that is true, Tasha, I may just have to video me doing the happy dance that they are out. Lord have mercy, it's taken forever this time. Tasha is saying that she heard that the new minimum standards were published recent. They weren't published before today, I can tell you that. So if it has happened, it had to have happened this morning, and I haven't seen anything yet. As soon as those new standards are published, y'all, I've got a whole series of webinars that I've already got planned out. I'm just waiting for them to come out, and then I will make a schedule and post it. So stay tuned to that, because there's some really critical, important stuff that's going to be in the new standards that we need to talk about. So stay tuned for that. But, yeah, they weren't published up before today, I can tell you that. All right. So, Tasha's saying the new cover says 2020. I'm looking at that. The moment we get off this webinar, I'm going to look. So thank you for that heads up right there. All right. So, your online worksheet, the links to complete your online worksheets are on Facebook. So just refresh your browser. It should be the first thing on the wall. I will also post the links in this chat screen right there. So there you go. I got a question. Have I done a second round of PPP webinars? No, that's a good idea. We probably should do something on that for those of you that aren't up to date on the payroll protection program in round 2. Probably won't take an hour, so it would be a shorter webinar. We can incorporate some other stuff into it, but I will take a look and see if I can squeeze that in. I was supposed to be at a conference all next week that has now been rescheduled for September, so I got a wide open week. Who wants to go away? Let's go to Vegas or something. No, just kidding. I might be able to squeeze some things in next week, so there you go. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Make safe choices, and I will see all of you very, very soon. Bye.